You need to watch this video before you take action on your new client. Too often I see SEOs get a new client and the first thing they go to do is add more stuff to the site, whether it's new content, technical fixes, starting right with building links, whatever the case is, they start their strategy by adding things to the site rather than figuring out where the bloat of the site exists today and removing that. It's a lot like buying a house or an apartment and moving in, right? Let's say the previous tenants didn't clean the house. There's a bunch of old furniture, junk, it's dusty. A website that you just inherited is very much so the same thing. Before we start moving your stuff in, we want to clean and take out the dead weight, whether that's content and the landing pages or the blogs. Make sure we clean up and consolidate this site first before we start adding in net new pieces. The reason is Google evaluates the domain health as a whole. And so each page, it's almost as you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? If you have dead content on your site, Google is going to take that into consideration when evaluating your domain's health and the trustworthiness of your domain. And so as we prune and consolidate that irrelevant or dead content, that's going to make it much easier for your new pieces to rank because now the reputation of the domain is stronger as a whole. So when we say dead content, what do we mean and how can we identify that? With SaagaSolve, an agentic AI marketing platform, I can automate the GSC Google Search Console analysis of the site to help identify dead content. We're going to identify dead content as pages in Google Search Console that have a statistically significant less amount of clicks or impressions compared to the rest of the site. The reason why there's not a kind of ballpark answer for what the number is to determine if a site is or a page is poor in performance with impressions or clicks is because it all depends on the domain, right? If you have a domain that in general only gets 500 clicks and a single page is contributing 10 clicks, well, that's not so bad, right? The whole site only gets 500 clicks. Now let's say we have a much more established and rich domain that in general is generating 50,000 clicks. That page generating 10 clicks comparatively is a lot less significant, right? So I'm much more likely to consider that page dead weight. I've built a custom agent, dead content pruner, that takes all of this into account. It looks at the Google Search Console connection to grab the right property or the client I'm choosing to focus on. It calculates total impressions across all pages, total clicks across pages, the average or the median impressions per page, what the bottom 5 percentile is for impressions, and what the bottom 5 percentile is for clicks. So what I just said, where that number of is this content dead weight, how that moves based on the reputation and the strength of that domain, what that domain is generating today. Because we're doing this using averages and percentiles, that is accounting for the fact that that click or impression number isn't solid, right? And it's based on what's significant to that domain. It's going to define dead pages where impressions and clicks are both less than the 5 percentile, and impressions are less than 50 in general, because regardless, that's a hard floor to avoid false positives on new content. Then it's going to export that into a list for us. Phase 2 is not only is it going to identify dead content, but it's going to identify where we put that content, right? We don't want to just delete a bunch of stuff and now have 404 pages or error pages, page not found. We want to redirect them to the semantically best page that we are keeping. So it's going to find the dead pages. It's going to scrape the dead pages to figure out what's the content about, what's the keywords it's targeting. And then it's going to find consolidation targets, again using Google Search Console. What other pages are ranking for these keywords or the topic that this page is talking about? And score that in terms of how semantically similar they are, and then select the target and recommend that the dead page is redirected to that semantically similar content that is performing well and above the thresholds. Finally, it's going to generate a CSV redirect map for me to go ahead and pass to the developer, implement myself. So let's take a look at how well this works. I said using Google Search Console, check Door Pro America for dead content and create a Pruner redirect map. This is a garage door services company in the US. It's gone ahead and scraped Google Search Console to find the property and confirm access. Lovely visualization here, so you can actually have that peace of mind that did find the right property. All the pages it's pulling. Now it creates that baseline again, so it could figure out what that percentile threshold is. So total impressions in a 90-day period is about 600K. Clicks about 3K. Site-wide CTR is 0.49%. Average position is 20. Then it figures out what that threshold is. And it goes ahead and filters out pages that are in those bottom percentiles that match that threshold filter. Once doing that analysis, it's identified 189 pages, 42% of the site. And this is what I meant when I was talking about earlier with the Google reputation, right? If you have 42% of the site is not driving clicks or not even found on page one of SERPs to drive impressions, how would you think Google evaluates the domain, right? You're essentially saying most, or not most, but very close to the majority of my site is not valuable from a user perspective. And we know it's not valuable because, again, it's not driving clicks or even impressions. So if nearly the majority of our site content is bad and we push new content, Google's reputation against the site is already negative, right? We call this a negative ranking state, meaning that we are fighting against a negative reputation with Google and that most of our pages are kind of garbage. And it makes it so that every new piece we do is that much harder to rank. In contrast, a positive ranking state means that one page compounds and builds upon the next. Google sees our site as a majority positive content that's likely to satisfy a user. And so as we push out new content into Google's ecosphere or a knowledge graph, they're much more likely to be receptive to us. Those pages get indexed faster, they rank quicker, and they rank more favorably because of that domain reputation. So here's the problems identified. A ton of programmatic location page bloat. So for many cities, you have 4 to 5 separate pages. We have garage door city, garage door repair, garage door tune-up. So it looks like what this client did in a past life is rather than have one localized page that speaks to all of their services, every service had a localized page. This creates a ton of bloat, and it's not necessary in most cases. The reason being that I've seen it's not necessary is because as you get granular in your local SEO with those services, the competition gets lower, right? So your risk of not ranking a page because it's targeting a few service keywords isn't that great. And again, asterisk, in a lot of cases, knowing this client and the rural areas they serve where just the competition is so low, these pages do create bloat and the data backs that up. So immediate actions is delete the 13 pages with 0 traffic. And by that, we mean redirect them. Skipping ahead here, create an interactive HTML artifact. This is the coolest part in my opinion, right? Chatbots are cool and everything, but visualizations are really what clicks with us, what makes it easy for us to ticket to the dev. And we got that analysis visualized here in the artifact tab rather beautifully. So we have the pages just to delete, and we have the pages to redirect and exactly where we're redirecting that to. Even has a confidence measure on how semantically similar these pages are. So of course, as a human, I can go in and save myself the time. Hey, it's really confident about these pages. Maybe I'll just review the mediums and I'll circle back and do the high at some later point, but it's not a priority for me. Then I can download that as a CSV, or I can grab a link here and share it with my internal team. Fantastic work by SaagaSolve in taking a super simple prompt. I mean, this was a sentence, and creating an extremely actionable roadmap with a beautiful visualization that should be day 0 on any client. Cannot stress this enough. Before you build new content, clean up the dead weight. Again, before you move into that apartment, you want to clean it. You want to take the old furniture out and make it so that as you do new pieces, your work is compounding and you're not swimming upstream. Speaking of swimming upstream, agentic softwares are here and they're only growing. It's not a replacement for a human, but if you're not using it in any agentic workflows in your toolkit today, I promise you, you're not only going to get left behind, you are actively being left behind by the industry. Check out SaagaSolve, that's SaagaSolve.com, and sign up for a free trial today.